Hey, what's going on everyone? I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered how some people who play Phasmophobia can get the ghost right with zero evidence? Well, if you have, this is the right video for you, because in this video I will be breaking down every single ghost's unique abilities and behaviors in Phasmophobia. This will help you from all experience levels, from new players who are struggling to get one last piece of evidence and are just looking for something to point them in the right direction, to the expert players who are working on getting the Gold Apocalypse trophy. I promise you, in this video you will learn something you did not know about the ghosts in this game. Before we begin, I just want to say that this is going to be a lot of information, so feel free to save this video and come back later if you're getting burned out, or if you forget and need to make reference to anything. Another thing I want to cover briefly is sanity, and specifically how it can be used to identify ghosts. As you probably know, every ghost has a threshold that your sanity needs to hit in order for the ghost to try and start a hunt. With that being said, the average threshold for most ghosts is 50% sanity. Now, there are a few who differ from that, which can help you identify them based on the sanity you have when it tries to hunt. So for any ghost who does not follow the normal 50% sanity threshold, I will make mention of it and give you their specific threshold. One last thing I want to say before we start, this is just for you new players, is please do not rely or make reference to the journal descriptions of ghosts provided in this game, because the descriptions are often inaccurate or misleading. Okay, with all of that out of the way, let's start with our first ghost. The spirit is your basic ghost. Most ghosts will have certain behaviors that can help narrow down what you think it may or may not be, but this does not apply to the spirit. Due to the lack of any unique behavior, it actually makes this one of the harder ghosts to identify. However, there is one trick that can help you identify if it's a spirit. If you are within the hunting threshold of the spirit, which is 50%, and you light incense near the ghost, either in its room or during a hunt, the spirit will be prevented from hunting for 180 seconds instead of the usual 90 seconds. So a tactic you can use to identify spirits is burning the incense near the ghost and setting a timer. That way you can determine when the ghost is starting its hunts. Quick little note here, if the ghost hunts before your timer hits 60 seconds when you lit the incense, then the effect was not applied and you need to try again. I would recommend using the incense during a hunt, as it's easier to see if it worked or not, as the ghost will be blinded. But if you are going to use it outside a hunt, you can use the cleanse the area objective to help identify if the smudge worked or not. You can also use motion sensors to help locate where it is in its current location. Next, we have the Wraith. Personally, I would consider the Wraith as our first ghost to be an exceptionally dangerous ghost, as it has a special ability where it can randomly teleport to any player. This means that no matter where you are on the map, the Wraith can spawn on top of you. Now, the dangerous part comes from when you start playing with 0-second grace period, as it's fairly common for the Wraith to start a hunt soon after teleporting, which will result in almost near instantaneous death. Oh, that's right, we only have tier 1 paramike. That sucks. No, wait, we shouldn't have tier 1. Wait, what? Holy f***ing shit, dude. Oh my god. Whenever the Wraith does its ability, it will drop EMF 2, which could give you a clue, as if you are nowhere near the ghost room and all of a sudden you get EMF 2, well, there are only a few options it could be at that point. I'm gonna stand right here and hopefully that'll work. Are you here?
Sorry.
Oh, why are you far? Where are you? Why are you on vacation? Can you come into your ghost room? That was rude. The Wraith does have one unique quirk that makes it very easy to rule out. It will never step in salt. As soon as any ghost steps in salt, you can always rule out Wraith. I'm sorry, did you just do dots and not step through my salt, you Wraith? Why does that sound like a bad word? Next, we have the Phantom, and this one gets a little more complicated. You see, the Phantom has an ability where it will choose a random player and travel to their location, as opposed to the more normal random roaming. This will also create EMF level 2, similar to the Wraith. The weakness of the Phantom comes in two forms. The first giveaway is that if you take a photo of the Phantom during a ghost event or its dot state, it will always immediately disappear. If you check the photo and it's a 3-star ghost photo, but you cannot see the ghost, then it's most likely a phantom. If you ever take a photo of the ghost and can actually see it in the photo, it can never be a phantom. The other giveaway is when the phantom is hunting, as it will be invisible for longer periods of time, making it harder to see and track. Okay, it's a hunt. Well, you weren't supposed to hunt me. But notice how the phantom, very hard to see. Oh, very hard to see. I missed horribly. I don't even know why I tried to do that. So we're gonna just keep looping it. I physically can't see it, so I gotta be careful here. I have my sponge out. Oh god. Oh, okay. Well, that is why looping a phantom is really dangerous. Okay. Well, you suck, dude. Now for the complicated part. The phantom has a sanity drain effect where if you are within 10 meters or 32 feet of it during a hunt or an event, it will reduce the player's sanity by 0.5% sanity per second. Do keep in mind this is separate from passive sanity drain you may already be experiencing if you're in the dark. If you're having a hard time visualizing the range of that, then whenever you hear your heartbeat, you are within range of the effect. You can stop this drain if you take a picture of the phantom during the event. Now we move on to the Poltergeist, and in my early days, I hated this ghost because I used to think every ghost was a Poltergeist because of how they threw items, but it's a bit more complicated than that. Generally speaking, the Poltergeist is usually a more active ghost throwing items around the room, but this game does implement a fair amount of randomness to it, which can lead to what I call sleepy ghosts. Furthermore, there are other ghosts that can actually match the high activity of a polter, which can lead to confusion. That is why I try to rely less on behavior and more so on abilities, in which the polter has a few. For example, during a hunt, the poltergeist will throw an item every half a second, whereas normal ghosts have a 50% chance to throw an item every half a second. But there is one dead giveaway to the Poltergeist, and that's its other ability. The Poltergeist does what I call a Poltiplosion, in which it throws a multitude of objects across an area. If you see that, then you can safely circle Poltergeists. Are you close? Where are you? Downstairs. You're gonna want to clip that. One last unique ability the Poltergeist has is its ability to throw an item with much more force. This one can be harder to determine, especially if the ghost room is small, but it is something you can keep an eye out for. Next, we have the Banshee, and this ghost has a unique strength. It will focus on the same player until they are killed or they leave the game. At the start of the round, if the ghost is a Banshee, it will select a random player as its target. If you are the target, then the Banshee will have a 67% chance to trigger a unique ability to roam to its target. This does not set off any EMF, so you may not even know it's stalking you. The Banshee stalking can actually be seen best when the lights are off and dots is set up, as you will actually be able to see it walk straight towards their target instead of the nearest player. Now, I want to make note of our sanity threshold change. Sort of. You see, the sanity threshold for Banshee is 50%, which is normal. However, it will only use the sanity of the target, which means the target must be at 50% or lower in order for the Banshee to even attempt to hunt. So, if everyone is at 0% except for one person in the truck, they could be the target of a Banshee. When a hunt begins is where it gets really interesting. It will ignore all players other than its hunt target. It will not attempt to chase other players, nor will it kill them if it comes into direct contact with a non-targeted player. Instead, it will just pass through them. If the Banshee is successful and claims its target, then it will choose a new victim and the process will repeat. The Banshee has a few unique behavioral traits I'd like to cover before moving on. For one, it's more likely to do singing events. Now, personally, I wouldn't recommend just immediately going Banshee off a singing event, although I have done it in the past and have been correct. That's usually not accurate. So what can be relied on is that it has a unique scream on the parabolic microphone. If you hear that, then you have concrete evidence of a Banshee. Next, we got the Jinn, and this one actually has a fairly easy way to rule out, as the Jinn will never turn the power off. Be careful though, as the Jinn could turn a light on in another room and then that light could flip the breaker, making you think it turned the power off, but it in fact did not. The Jinn has a unique ability. If a player is near the fuse box and the power is on, the Jinn will occasionally use an ability that lowers the sanity of one player in the same room or otherwise 3 meters of it by 25%. When it does this ability, it will drop either EMF 2 or 5 at the fuse box. If the fuse box is turned off, all of the Jinn's abilities become disabled. The Jinn also has a unique hunting ability that requires 3 conditions that must be met for it to work. Number 1, the fuse box must be turned on. Number 2, the Jinn must have line of sight with the player. And finally, number 3, it must be further than 3 meters or 10 feet from the player. If these conditions are met, its speed will be fixed to 2.5 meters per second. Next, we have the Mare. Now, this ghost hates lights, and an easy way to rule out the Mare is if the ghost ever turns a light on. Yeah, well, it's not a Mare. If it does that, then it cannot be a Mare. Furthermore, the Mare has a unique ability that if you are within 4 meters of it and you flick a light switch to the on position, it has a small chance of immediately flipping the light off. It's important to keep in mind that each light has a minimum cooldown of 10 seconds, so you can't just spam light switches. This ability can be activated regardless if the fuse box is broken or off. However, it will not do it if the lights are shattered. Speaking of shattered lights, the Mare actually has an increased chance to do a Shatter Lights event than other ghosts. This is similar to the Banshee's increased chance of doing a singing event. The Mare's hunting threshold is slightly abnormal, as it depends on if the Mare is currently in a room that has the lights on. If the lights are off, it can hunt from 60% and below, but if the lights are on, it can hunt at 40% and below. Trying to determine if the ghost is a Mare by behavior can be a challenge, but you can look for one thing. If you notice the ghost frequently wanders out of a room with lights on into a room with lights off, and even chooses a new favorite room that's in the dark, that is a sign that it could be a Mare. Next, we have the Revenant, one of the deadliest ghosts in the game. This is because the Revenant gains an incredible 3 meters per second speed buff whenever it has line of sight of a player or detects a player's electronics. This ghost will catch you, so when dealing with a Revenant that's chasing you, your best bet is to break line of sight as quickly as possible and make sure all your electronics are turned off. There is good news though. Whenever the Revenant has no line of sight or detection of a player, it will move at a slow 1 meters per second, making it very easy to tell that it is indeed a Revenant. Next is the Shade. The Shade is a very shy ghost. It's one of the few ghosts that you could probably guess on behavior rather than abilities. They are known to be a lot less likely to perform any interaction than any other ghost. The Shade's ability to perform an event is directly tied to the sanity of the player. For example, at 100% sanity, it cannot perform an event, with the success rate increased by 2% sanity per percentage of average sanity lost. What that basically means is at 50% average sanity, an attempted ghost event will always succeed. I don't know if that's ever going to be really practical to know, but I figured, why not tell you? Whenever the Shade does do an event, it has a higher chance to appear as a shadow rather than its full ghost model. If there is at least one player in the room as the Shade, then it will be unable to perform any interactions or initiate a hunt or event regardless of sanity. What this means for you, the player, is if the ghost ever does an event in the same room as you, you can effectively rule out Shade, as that's impossible. A Shade will also never write in a ghost writing book with you in the room or blow out a candle, unless the range of those items extends outside the room. Then, technically, the Shade will be able to reach the object without being in the same room as you. Alright, now we come to the Demon, which most new players think is the deadliest ghost in Phasmophobia just by the name alone, but personally, I would not give it that title. The Demon is more aggressive than other ghosts, and it does have a special ability to start a hunt at any sanity, even 100%. Now, it's incredibly rare for that to happen, so much so that there is actually an achievement for it, and only 0.9% of players on Steam have it. But it can happen. What's more likely to give away a demon is that whenever it finishes a hunt, you receive a grace period to run around and mourn the death of your fellow investigators. This grace period is 25 seconds for all ghosts except the demon, who can start another one in 20 seconds. Furthermore, you can smudge the demon and set a timer, which is very similar to the spirit, which will prevent the demon from hunting for 60 seconds instead of the normal 90 seconds. It's kind of the opposite of the spirit, whereas the spirit takes longer to hunt, the demon has the opposite effect. I do want to note that the demon's normal threshold for hunting is 70%, which actually makes it a pretty easy ghost to rule out depending on what sanity level it tries to hunt. It's a demon. You hunted way too early, my friend. I was not ready for this. This is very rude. Very rude. Oh shit, she's still coming. Oh, she got faster. Leave me alone, big bully. Okay, well, let's go and check our sanity to confirm my demon suspicions. Because that would have been, yep, that'll do it. Now, the demon does have a weakness, and that comes from the crucifix, as the crucifix gains a 50% bonus range buff when demons are concerned. What that translates to is about 4.5 meters instead of 3 meters for the tier 1, 6 meters instead of 4 meters for the tier 2, and 7.5 meters instead of 5 meters for the tier 3 crucifix. This provides a much larger radius of safety when using crucifixes against demons. The Yueri is one of the tougher ghosts to determine if you're going off of ability and behavior, as the behavior is no different than any other ghost. The Yueri does have a few abilities that can expose it. For one, the Yueri has an ability to decrease all players' sanity by 15% when they're within 7.5 meters. Another ability the Yueri has is it will fully close a door, but this only works if the door is completely open. The Yueri is also the only ghost that can interact with the front door outside of an event. If you are ever by the front door and the ghost touches it but there is no event, it's definitely a Yueri. Now onto the Oni. The Oni is a very active ghost and only increases in activity the more players that are around it. So if you are playing in a group and notice the ghost becomes less active when you're alone but much more active when everyone is in the room, you could have an Oni on your hands. Can it be a Yueri? It's a little uncalled for. Are you here? Are you close? Where are you? Why did you do that? Jesus Christ, you're an asshole. No. What the f is your problem? Now, you can rule out Oni easily if the ghost ever does what is called an airball event. Onis can never do this event, so if you get this event, you can scratch Oni off the list. Another way you can determine if it's an Oni is by observing the blinking during a hunt. You see, the Oni will, on average, be invisible for a shorter amount of time and visible for longer periods of time during a hunt, making it easier to see. One last thing to say about the Oni that can help you expose it is that it will have double the sanity drain if you collide with the ghost during an event. So if you think it's an Oni and you know your sanity is, say, 80% and you collide with the ghost during an event, you can check back in the truck to see how much your sanity decreased. Let's check my sanity. So the actual attacks have yet to hit me. Oh my god. Alright, hit me actually. I did that for a reason. So I was at 65% sanity. I should be theoretically 20% lower. Okay. Well, that was exactly 20% lower. So that doesn't always work. Since the Oni has double the effect, you should lose about 20% sanity. If you have, it's probably an Oni. Just be careful if you're going to try and guess Oni by sanity loss, as this part of the Oni has had some bugs in the past and doesn't always work as intended. Next up is the Yokai. The Yokai is a ghost who is sensitive to voices. Specifically, if you speak near a Yokai using the in-game voice chat, it will start to enrage the ghost and increase the hunting threshold. The threshold for the Yokai starts at 50% like most of the ghosts, but can increase all the way up to a staggering 80%. The max they can hunt is 80% sanity if you keep talking to the ghost. Right now I've push to talk set up, so it can't actually hear me. But what I'm going to do is I'm basically, and I did assume it was a Yokai because it answered my spirit box response almost immediately. There is nothing that says that Yokais are supposed to do that, but I have noticed that they've just always been very yappy on the spirit box, mostly because they're just probably trying to tell me to shut the hell up. So what we're going to do is basically piss off the ghost, because that's a good thing to do. So let's see what happens. And if it does hunt really early on, only thing that can really hunt would be a Yokai. So, are you here? Are you close? Where are you? Are you friendly? Okay, well it's dots. So it is a Yokai. So we're gonna keep doing that. We're gonna keep talking while the ghosts, and throw the spirit box here. We're gonna keep talking to the ghost so I can show you what you mean. We'll wait for the first hunt to see just how early we can get this Yokai to hunt. Are you here? Are you angry? Am I annoying you? Are you close? Where are you? Are you friendly? Are you angry? Hey, I'm here. Are you close? Where are you? Andrew, are you annoyed? Andrew, am I annoying you? Hey, Andrew. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Andrew. We're playing Ring Around the Rosie around the table. Hey, Andrew. I love my microphone picks that up. That's great and doesn't annoy me at all. Okay, perfect. We got a hunt. Let's go see what our sanity is. When the Yokai initiates a hunt, it has an interesting weakness. The normal ranges for ghosts to detect electronic equipment is 7.5 meters away, and they can hear you 9 meters away. However, the Yokai's range at which it can hear you speak or detect your electronics is reduced to a small 2.5 meters. This can be tested by flicking electronic equipment on and off somewhere near the ghost and then listening to if it pivots towards you or not. Next we have the Hantu, and the Hantu is a ghost that thrives in the cold. The colder the room, the faster the Hantu will walk when it's hunting. An easy way to rule out the Hantu is if the ghost ever turns on the power box, as that will increase the room temperatures, which would directly conflict with its ability. So if the ghost turns the power on, we can safely cross out Hantu. The Hantu has a unique quirk that can help identify it, although it is a little dangerous. During a hunt, if the power is off, you will actually be able to see the Hantu's frozen breath. This is the only ghost capable of this, and it will confirm it is a Hantu. One last thing I'll say about the Hantu is if you are playing on 1 to 2 pieces of evidence, the Hantu will always have freezing temps as an evidence. It is a forced evidence. So basically, say you get UV and orbs, which are both evidence of a Hantu. When you look inside your ghostwriting book, you'll see that Hantu is an option, but in reality, it isn't, because Hantus have to force freezing temperatures. So at that point, you can just go ahead and cross it right off your list. Just remember, this only works if you're playing with 2 or 1 piece of evidence.
What the f is this piece of shit?
Good question. This piece of is next to impossible to determine with 0 evidence, as it doesn't do anything. The only thing you can use to potentially get Goryo right with no evidence is if the ghost doesn't change its ghost room. This becomes more damning the longer the investigation continues. However, it does have one little trick. The Goryo always forces dots, similar to the Hantu's forced freezing. So you can use that knowledge to your advantage and rule it out if it's not in your 1 to 2 evidence runs. One last thing I'll say about this is that its dots event is unique, as it will actually not perform dots if there are any players in the room with the ghost, and it will never show dots if you are not observing through a video camera. Now, if you're lucky, you can set your camera up to get dots outside of the room like this. If you're unlucky, then you're gonna have to set cameras up and then go back to the truck and watch for the next 20 to 30 minutes. Now we have the Myling. The Myling is known as the chatty Cathy on the parabolic microphone, but very quiet when hunting. You can use this by staking out in an area closer to the ghost room and listening on the parabolic mic. This is tough though, as paranormal sounds are a random chance and can be pretty unreliable to identifying a Myling. A rule of thumb for trying to do it by parabolic is if I get 2 to 3 whispers in a 1-minute period, it is likely to be a Myling, but again, this is a pretty unreliable way of doing it. The other way you could identify a Myling is if it is quieter during a hunt. A Myling's vocalization and footsteps will only be audible from a range of 12 meters rather than the usual 20 meters. This can lead to some unfortunate endings, as people don't realize just how close the Myling really is. Next up is the Onryo, the ghost that fears fire. The Onryo doesn't have any obvious behavior like some of the other ghosts we covered, but it does have something we can use to determine if it is an Onryo or not. Using a firelight, we can both prevent and start a hunt. If the Onryo tries to start a hunt but is within 4 meters of any type of flame, it will blow out the fire instead and the hunt will fail. This actually does not reset the hunt cooldown timer, unlike the crucifix. If you have both a crucifix and another source of fire within range of each other, the fire will always take priority over the crucifix for preventing the hunt. However, if the Onryo blows out a flame 3 times, it is extremely likely to start a hunt which can only be blocked by a crucifix. Now, I've heard people say it always starts a hunt, and I used to believe that too until I had an Onryo who blew out 3 candles and didn't start a hunt. So either the game bugged out, which is more than possible, or it's not a guarantee, just very likely. Now keep in mind, the 3 blowout rule can take place at any sanity, which is what makes it such a good way to test for Onryo. In order to conduct the test, it is best to place a crucifix down in the ghost room and light a candle and place that candle on top of the crucifix. On the 3rd blowout, if the crucifix burns, it's most likely an Onryo. Furthermore, if a crucifix charge is burned but there's a lit candle above it, you can safely rule Onryo out as it will be unable to hunt with any flame nearby. The effectiveness of ruling out the Onryo this way drops once your sanity dips below 60%, as the objective is to try and force it to hunt before it normally can. So if you're going to use the 3 blowout trick, try and do it before you hit the Onryo's 60% sanity threshold for hunting. Now let's talk about the twins. The twins are another misunderstood ghost due to its description in the journal and its name. Most new players believe the twins to be 2 ghosts. In reality, it's actually only one that differs slightly depending on which twin is active. When looking for the twins, be on the lookout for interactions that take place far from each other. For example, the normal radius in which ghosts interact with objects is 3 meters. The twins follow that same rule but also have the ability to interact with something as far as 16 meters away. This is called a twinteraction. Now, something unique about the twins is when it starts a hunt, it comes down to a 50% chance of either starting the hunt where the ghost is standing or starting a hunt close to the location of the item it last interacted with. This ability can give the twins away in a very rare circumstance, as whenever the hunt starts, it only takes into consideration the location of where the ghost is. So let me give you an example. Say you are in the ghost room standing by a crucifix, and the twin wanders out of the room and into the hall, but does a twinteraction and throws a cup next to you. It could now start a hunt from the cup, but because the ghost is technically in the hallway, it will bypass the crucifix. I think it's happened to me like once, and I'll be honest, I was pretty excited to see it since it's so rare. Finally, the last thing to say about the twins is it has 2 speeds when it hunts. There's the fast twin and the slow twin. The slow twin walks at about 1.53 meters per second and the fast at 1.87 meters per second. Those are very specific numbers. I'm not sure why it's that specific, but that's what the wiki says. Alright, let's talk about the Raiju. The Raiju is a ghost that loves electronics. It actually siphons power from them, making it faster during hunts. It has a stronger effect on electronics as well. What I mean by that is, if the Raiju does a manifestation event, it will actually disrupt your electronics from up to 15 meters away, whereas the normal disruption range is 10 meters. Keep in mind that it only works if you're on the same floor. With at least one piece of electronic equipment near the ghost, its hunting threshold will actually increase from the base 50% to 65%. During hunts, the Raiju's speed increases if it is within a certain distance of electronics and on the different size maps. The range is 6 meters on small maps, 8 meters on medium maps, and 10 meters on the large maps. So if you're looking to find this ghost with little to no evidence, try setting up electronics around the house and listen to the footsteps of the ghost. If they start to get faster near the electronic equipment, it could be a Raiju. Alright, now onto our next ghost, the Obake. The Obake is known as a shape-shifting ghost that will actually change ghost models very briefly during a hunt. It will change its ghost model based on the gender of its original ghost model. This is the only way to identify it with zero evidence. It's important to note that any dead players will not be able to see the Obake shapeshift in the spirit realm, which is unfortunate. Now, if you are playing with one or two pieces of evidence, it has an ability to suppress ultraviolet evidence. Normally, it's a 100% chance for a ghost to leave UV if it touches a door or steps in salt. However, the Obake has a 75% chance of leaving UV. Now, the Obake has something else that gives it away, and that's its handprint. You see, it has a 16.7% chance to leave a specific 6-finger handprint. This is a sure giveaway that the ghost you are dealing with is indeed an Obake. One last thing that can prove useful to know is the Obake is another ghost that has a forced piece of evidence, and that evidence is UV.
Gotcha, bitch!
Ah yes, Clown Boy's up next. I got some bad news. Everything you've learned so far, this guy is gonna screw it up. Meet the Mimic. Certified jack. Here to absolutely ruin your day. The Mimic can mimic any ghost's unique abilities, behaviors, and hunting strategies. But it has one major flaw. It leaves ghost orbs, always. So if you're playing on 3 evidence and you don't have ghost orbs, you can rule the Mimic out. If you play on 1 or 2 evidence and you have 2 to 3 evidence respectively, well then you are probably dealing with a Mimic, as you shouldn't have extra evidence. My favorite is actually when you run 0 evidence and you find the ghost room and see the ghost orbs, as that makes it even more obvious that it's a Mimic.
You get that in the truck?
Yep.
Oh.
When it's snowing, you do.
Alright, let's see.
The Mimic.
You lie!
It's in the kitchen. Go look.
You lie, dude.
It's a mimic.
Son of a.
The same thing that throws us off is the same thing we can use to nail that sucker to the wall. Always try to rule the Mimic out. Even at 0 evidence, you can determine it's a Mimic by noticing it mimic multiple ghost behaviors or abilities. For example, if it does a Poltergeist but then hunts like a Deogen, then you know there is some tomfoolery going on. Tread lightly with this one. Ah yes, the Moroi. This ghost is technically the fastest ghost in the game, and many consider it to be the deadliest. You see, the Moroi feeds off your sanity, and the lower it is, the more powerful it becomes. And by powerful, I mean it gets really, really fast. The Moroi actually has a unique ability where it will curse the player through a spirit box or parabolic microphone. This will cause your passive sanity drain to double, decreasing your sanity and empowering the Moroi. The only way to break the curse is by taking sanity medication. Just be careful to not get cursed again, as that is possible. Keep in mind, because of its curse ability, the spirit box is a forced piece of evidence for the Moroi. One last thing about Usain here, if you smudge the Moroi, it will stay in the blinded state for 7.5 seconds rather than the 5, allowing you to potentially have an easier time escaping the ghost. Next we have the Deogen, the absolute Giga Chad of ghosts. Although if you're new to the game, you may have other feelings towards it. Now, trying to determine the Deogen with or without evidence isn't actually too bad. The Deogen has Spirit Box as a forced evidence, so as long as you have at least one evidence, you will always get its special ability. How it works is, if you are standing within 1 meter of the Deogen, it has a 33% chance to answer any questions with whatever the hell this is. Now, the easiest way to tell if a ghost is a Deogen with no evidence is during a hunt, like most ghosts. This is because the Deo will run at 3 meters per second if it is further than 6 meters from a player. It will then get slower once it reaches around 2.5 meters to a player. The speed is actually so slow you can outwalk the Deo, provided you haven't cornered yourself. The Deo actually has a lower sanity threshold for hunting, and it's 40%. Finally, we have the Thaye, an extremely active ghost in the beginning of the investigation. It is common for Thays to be freaking out in their selected ghost rooms, throwing items everywhere, and overall just kinda having a tantrum. Thays also really don't like you being in the same room as them, as they are the only ghost that has an aging ability. This is how it works. Every 1 to 2 minutes, the Thaye will attempt to age. If at least one player is in the same room as the ghost, the Thaye will successfully age. The starting threshold for a Thaye to hunt is a staggering 75% sanity, but with each successful age, it drops by 6%. Likewise, its starting speed is a blistering 2.75 meters per second, but will decrease by 0.175% meters per second with each age. This will cap at about 10 times, where the threshold will drop to a minimum of 15% sanity to hunt and a speed to 1 meters per second. Successfully aging the Thaye more than 10 times does not do anything else. One thing players should note is Thays do not increase their speed when they achieve line of sight, like most other ghosts, so that can be a way you can determine the ghost from other fast ghosts. Another interesting way to discover a Thaye with zero evidence besides the obvious hunting speed is for every age event that occurs, it does actually change the human age, which can be found using the Ouija board. The age of the Thaye increases by 1 to 4 years per aging event. It's a more niche way of finding the ghost with zero evidence, but I have done it before. So if you ever ask the ghost with the Ouija board, how old are you, and it says 32, and you hang around the ghost room and ask that same question and it says 48, you have a Thaye. And just like that, you know all the little quirks, behaviors, and abilities of all the ghosts in Phasmophobia. I really hope you enjoyed the video and found it both entertaining and informative. If you would be so kind to consider leaving this video a like, it would really help the algorithm push this video out to more Phasmo players who may benefit from this. I would greatly appreciate that. You could also consider subscribing if you're a fan of Phasma or horror games in general, because I love them both and that's what we do here. Finally, if you ever want to ask me questions, you can join our Discord or follow me on Twitch and chat with me live as I play Phasma and all the other horror games. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.